coming to you on a Sunflower Showdown edition of Mic'd Up. That is happening today here on 580 WIBW. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got plenty to get to. We're going to talk all things Chiefs football. We're going to talk about officiating. We're going to talk about the Sunflower Showdown. And Bill Self is right. And you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Bill Self said something that even K-State fans are like, Bill, you're a smart man.
I don't know if they're going to call Bill a smart man, but they'll be like, Bill, you're correct.
I think both are true. I think if he does
I think they would say, Bill, you are correct, and we agree.
I mean, if you don't think Bill Self is smart, I got nothing for you.
I don't speak for K-State fans. I just have a hard time believing from some things I see out of certain members of that fan base that they would ever say the words, Bill Self, you're a smart man.
Well, I'll be the one to tell
I would love to be proven wrong, but
Bill Self is a smart man.
He's a very smart man.
We got lots to get to. Hit us up on our Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Outside of Topeka, very simple, very easy. Let us know. 785-272-9429. Matt Derrick will come up at 12:30. Brandon Orzinski coming up at 1:30. Everyone loves the list. Worst Super Bowls. That's what we're going to go with.
There are some
Super Bowls.
Stinkers.
Yeah, worst Super Bowls. We're going to get to that as well. But we're going to start this off with the game on Sunday for the Kansas City Chiefs. Needs to get a lot of flowers to a lot of people. And I think we've given them to specific players and Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes. We've given love to the athletic training staff yesterday, which definitely should get a lot of love. Brett Veach is another guy who deserves to get a lot of love, but it also goes all the way down to assistant coaches, because the game on Sunday really showed why we talk so much about who are players 51, 52, and 53 on this team. And that also means guys who are 51, 52, 53 on this roster spot are also those rookies. We discuss a lot about camp battles. Who's going to get this spot? Who's going to get that spot? Who can help out the Chiefs in the biggest point possible? Who can be versatile? And that is what occurred in the game yesterday. You got to have good backups. You do. You have to have good backups. This goes even all the way back to the Super Bowl. Remember, the Chiefs were without 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen in the AFC Championship game, and they went to the Super Bowl. Remember, the Super Bowl that they lost to the Bucs didn't have a single starting offensive lineman where they started the year. You can withstand so much, and that proved to be the case in that one when you didn't even have one starter. But depth means something. Ask the Bengals. Ask the Bengals, their offensive line, their depth, because it certainly showed. But the Kansas City Chiefs in this game showed why we talk about, who's going to be the third string linebacker. Darius Harris played a bunch in that game, and he played a bunch this year. When Willie Gay got suspended for 4 games, he played a bunch this year. That is how important. Colin Saunders actually had an impact this year, and even in the game. The offseason signings to a guy like Carlos Dunlap, who's not going to play a lot, but gives you a little bit. That is such a huge deal. We bring this up all the time. Marcus Kemp. Marcus Kemp has been talked about more because of his special teams aspect of it, but that's another reason why, hey, look, the Kansas City Chiefs went with Marcus Kemp in this situation because, 1, he can play special teams, and 2, he's still a viable option on offense despite only catching 5 passes his entire career. The depth matters. And I'll even mention it a little bit more. Noah Gray played a lot in this game. MVS played a huge role in this game. MVS did the whole motion into the backfield, whip back around towards the sideline. That's not MVS's position. That is McCole Hardman, Kadarius Toney, and even Juju Smith-Schuster would do that kind of stuff. But they didn't have any bodies, so guess what? You have to be able to find people who can do all of that. And they executed that. And it would have been an even better play if not for, officials and Andrew Wiley flapping like a bird. But that is why it's so big. And this is why when we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs draft and how even 7th round picks matter. And if that hasn't shown why 7th round picks are almost, I didn't say they are the same, while they are almost as important as a 1st and 2nd round pick. Look at what has happened in the NFL for these last 4 teams. These last 4 teams. Look at how important this is. The Kansas City Chiefs knocked it out of the park with their 1st round pick. Trent McDuffie's going to be awesome. He's going to be so good. He played every snap and had the huge pass breakup on the deep one. George Karlaftis had a sack, had a bunch of pressures. He's now, he's with, if you include the postseason, he's over 7 to 8 sacks as a rookie. That is a big boost for this team. Brian Cook has played special teams all year long, but then is coached up good enough in the biggest game of his career, comes up with the big play. Sky Moore as a 4th or 5th wide receiver. Credit to Dave Toub, and this might be the egg on everybody's face. Maybe the on second thought of the Chiefs season. How many times did you and I come on this show and say, never put Sky Moore back as a punt returner? I'll admit, I have no problem admitting that.
I will have no problem admitting that after his last, muffed punt against the Rams, I was like, at that point, I was demi mad at Sky. I was mad at Toub. And said, don't do that. Why are you doing this?
We said, don't even put anybody back there. And look what happens. Yeah. He found a way
to continued trust,
impact the game.
Continued belief, and credit to Sky Moore for, there were earlier this year, Sky Moore asked to not be the punt returner anymore. He was like, it was screwing with him.
Yeah.
Dave Toub kept having him do it, kept having him learning because he knew at some point they might need him to do it. You just might. And the worst scenario happens in the AFC Championship game. Your 2 primary returners go down.
3.
Your 3rd emergency returner wasn't even active.
Yeah.
Your 2 primaries and Toney and Hardman both get hurt. Your 3rd is Justin Watson, and he wasn't active.
Yeah. Did you know that, according to the numbers, was the 12th biggest change in winning percentage punt return all season long?
That wouldn't surprise me.
4th round pick, Joshua Williams. He's grown.
He's gone up and down, but he made some big plays.
Had a big game.
Yeah.
Jalen Watson is a legit corner in the NFL.
He is a legit 3rd corner. He should probably, he's a legit 2nd, really, in my opinion. He should never probably, as of now, be your number 1. But that is the guy that every team would be like, I'd take that as the extra little bit of corner piece.
Isaiah Pacheco, your
starting running back.
That right now, you have got on this team 5 starters. And I didn't even include Leo Chanel, who's more of a role player in this situation, but has played this year. But that is why 7th round picks are so important. And if you are a really good franchise, one that is consistent all year long, your 7th round picks are even more important. Now, if you are the Chicago Bears, your 7th round picks, honestly, are not as important because 1, you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, and 2, your whole entire team stinks. The Chiefs need to hit on 7th round picks and 6th round picks and 5th round picks because their salary cap is favored so heavily towards 3 or 4 guys. But look here recently. What the Chiefs and even the 49ers. The 49ers, you're drafting in the 6th and 7th round is important. They drafted Brock Purdy. In a good organization, a 7th round quarterback can be helpful because everyone else around you is solid. And that is the reason why. Now, if you draft Brock Purdy in the 7th round, if you're the Chicago Bears, that's probably not going to work out because, one, Brock Purdy with that roster is going to be bad. But it worked out for the 49ers. And that's the reason why I look at the teams who have good and solid foundations, how important hitting on those are. The 7th round picks that the Kansas City Chiefs have hit on are insane. Jalen Watson, Isaiah Pacheco, and if you want to go 6th round picks, let's go 6th and 7th, right?
Yeah.
Trey Smith, Jalen Watson, and Isaiah Pacheco. The Chiefs have got 3 starters who are all above average in the 7th round, which means you've got 4 years of these 3 guys for league minimum.
Yeah, that's on the dirt sheet.
3 of 22 starters in Trey Smith, Pacheco, and Jalen Watson in the 6th and 7th round. That is so... That's a bonus. That's not even a bonus. That's not even getting the rando onion ring when you order fries at places. No, that's not when you get an extra nugget when you go to Chick-fil-A. No. That's like them botching the entire order when you are at like Roadhouse and you get the $50 meal for free. That's what that is like. Because that does not happen.
No,
it doesn't.
It doesn't. And we talk a ton on this show about why bad teams stay bad. And our theories on just, how poor drafting, poor leadership, all these different things are why terrible teams just never get out of the hole. What the Chiefs are showing are why good teams stay good. Like, dynasties, to use that very charged word, and just teams with long sustained success, that doesn't happen just because you hit on a few 1st and 2nd round picks, you get a couple big free agents, and you open the pocketbooks. Sustained success comes when you're, lower end of the roster guys, your cheaper guys, your 23 through 53 part of the roster are really good, are above average players. The Patriots were good for so long, not just because they had a great head coach in Bill Belichick and one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Tom Brady. That's a big part of it. The other part was they had so many lesser known guys on that team that they just found and made good.
And when Brady left, and they started drafting bad around that last Super Bowl victory with Tom. They really had started drafting pretty poor.
Like, if you want to look at if there's a way for the Chiefs to want to, and we tell this all the time because of Mahomes' contract, which other people blow far more out of proportion than it is. It is surprisingly team friendly given his stature. We talk about you can pay about 4 to 5 guys. That's what you can pay. Well, you work around that by drafting well. Mm-hmm. And the Chiefs, as of late, have just drafted so amazingly well. And this game was, I think, the real shower of what it looks like when that happens. We can talk about a team drafting well, but sometimes you go, but it didn't really matter that they drafted well, and it takes a little while to figure that out. The Chiefs partly won that game against Cincinnati because they drafted so well this year, and those guys had been scouted properly and were coached up and in a great position to succeed because of the amount of rookies that were playing this year. Like, that is an unsung part to being a consistent winner that I don't think goes completely unnoticed. I think a lot of people do realize the importance of drafting, but I don't think enough people realize how difficult it is to get this much contribution out of late round guys. The fact that, your second best corner all game in the AFC Championship game was the 7th round pick that no one else really thought to grab. That Chiefs are like, he's got that good size that we like. He's got the good length that we like. And more importantly, we feel confident in our ability to coach him up, which is the other part. Like, guys aren't always good. Those 6, 7 round picks we talk about that are so good, that isn't always just because, for some reason they slipped and they're a diamond in the rough. And, Trey Smith slipped because of medicals. The talent was 2nd round talent. He slipped because of medicals and the Chiefs were willing to take a chance. He's gotten better by being coached up, but he's always had 2nd round talent. A guy like Jalen Watson was a 7th round pick because people thought he had 7th round talent. And the Chiefs were like, we see that, we can take that, and we have good enough coaching infrastructure in place to coach him up. It's just impressive. And it is great as it's always to note when your superstars like Mahomes and Jones play well, it is important to note when those guys that just are afterthoughts on draft day. It's a different sport, but people make the jokes, but, Nikola Jokic, the best player in the NBA, arguably, was drafted over a Taco Bell commercial. Like, that's the memory of Nikola Jokic being drafted, is there was a Taco Bell ad while his name popped up. Those guys you never think about on draft night, but if you have a well-run organization, they are crucial in the biggest moments.
Yeah, 1 through 53, the Chiefs are the only roster better is the Eagles.
Yeah,
that's the
that
only
Eagles roster is good.
Roster that is better to me than the Kansas City Chiefs. Coming up next, the Chiefs. No, not the Chiefs. The Royals making a big signing, but that's not the next biggest question. We'll get to that coming up here on Mic'd Up. JJ had us worried. JJ had us worried. Signing Yarborough, signing Lyles. What are we going to do? That's not enough. Those guys are not good enough. Did you spend all the money there and not sign Zach Greinke? Zach Greinke had a 3.6 ERA last year in 150 innings. Give him another chance. JJ Piccolo listens to the show. There's no other way that I can reroute that. There's no other way except JJ Piccolo listens to the show.
I kind of hope he doesn't. I've said some very bad things.
Greinke going to be signed for the Royals. Now, there are some concerns about Greinke. He only struck out 73 batters last year in 150 innings. That is not good.
That's not, and for the first time in his career, he landed on the injured list due to injuries to his throwing arm.
Yeah, so there is concerns.
The breakdown might finally be coming.
You could have like the Chris Young effect. Chris Young, for now the GM for the Rangers. Chris Young in the World Series and in that 2015 year was awesome. He low-key was the most underrated player for the Royals that year.
Yeah.
So they signed him to a 2-year deal.
Yep, brought him back.
And it was a disaster.
Fell off a cliff.
Absolutely awful.
That has been my fear about Zach Greinke's entire impending end of his career as he pitches too long.
But 3.6 ERA, he's not Chris Young. He's Zach Greinke. I wanted them to do this because I think he's got another 150 innings in him. And so with that the case, what is your rotation? Singer, Greinke, Lyles probably locked in. Maybe Yarborough is locked in. I don't know, because here's the thing. I think Lyles is locked in.
Yes, no, he's a rotation arm.
So you got Singer, Greinke, Lyles. The next is, who are the next two? Is it, here are the next 5 guys to me. See if you disagree with me. Yarborough is one of the 5. Lynch, Bubich, Hernandez, and then outsider. Don't know who. Somebody else. Somebody else not in the mix. Because Keller's still available.
Yep.
So you got Lyles, or you got Yarborough, Lynch, Keller, Bubich, Hernandez, somebody of that. That's your rotation, I think.
Yeah, Keller's an option. Heasley's an option. Castillo's an option. It's intriguing. I think those 3 spots are locked, and they'll figure out the next 2 come spring training.
Yep. I'm excited.
I'm happy about it. No, that's what I want them to do. I'm liking it.
Coming up next, we're going to hear from Matt Derrick on all things Chiefs. Kansas City for our Herman's Mean Smokehouse Chiefs insider. He is Matt Derrick, the great, the fantastic Matt Derrick. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Derrick, ChiefsDigest.com. Matt, are you ready to cover your third Super Bowl in 4 years?
We better be. So it's coming up regardless. So let's get to it.
All righty. Did that game, when you're sitting up there in the press box and you got a whole bunch of people around you, I'm sure you've got, everybody around you. Did everyone kind of look at each other when Mahomes fumbled that football in that weird fashion and go, this is happening again, isn't it? Rare turnover from a rare person in a big time spot in the second half. Bengals just 50 yards away from tying the game. Chiefs feel like they were in control. Like, did you guys look at each other and body language and expression, and everybody just said, "Oh dear, whoa, uh-oh"?
There were a couple of moments in the fourth quarter where there was definitely that kind of thing, that definite mode that it was, hey, okay, yeah, we've seen this before. Here it comes. It's coming. That moment, the fumble, I think was more just flabbergasted that happened to Mahomes, because that's just something that normally doesn't happen to him. He doesn't do that. He doesn't do anything weird like that. So I think we were overcome by that mode more than at that moment than anything else. But there were probably at least 2 or 3 moments in the fourth quarter where it was like, okay, we've seen this before. And definitely, I mean, when the Chiefs had the punt, I mean, there's at the end, 2.5 minutes left. That felt like a big moment. I mean, I thought that was still the right move for the Chiefs. They had to put it in the hands of their defense at that point. But when you couldn't keep the drive going, I mean, and you had the punt there, it was like, you're not going to see this football again, because we've seen this before.
You pointed out after the very first kick that Butker had going towards the south end zone, to the right side of the television screen if you're watching it at home, and that ball fluttered and that moved. And you pointed out, you said, yeah, you're not kicking long field goals. You put that out there on Twitter. Do you think that the reason that Andy Reid didn't kick the field goal late in the game and punted, and another reason why he punted, is he thought the Bengals are going to have to get to almost the 30-yard line? They're going to have to go almost 70 yards to kick a field goal, because that wind and that cold, even Butker's kick barely made it over. I mean, it was probably good from like 50, but it wasn't like he hammered that thing like he normally does. I think a lot of people underestimated the cold, the wind when it came to the kicking game.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, that ball was definitely not carrying the other night. And, and Harrison Butker has his own, theory and his own soapbox because, he complains about the fact that the K balls, the kicking balls are inflated at room temperature before the game. And then they go outside and then, of course, they start to deflate. He's like, you take a soft football, you take the cold weather, you throw the wind in, all this stuff, and frankly, I mean, there's some paint on the field and Tommy Townsend will complain about the paint because he says it makes it slippery and a little bit heavier and everything. You add all of that, and the ball doesn't carry. I thought Harrison's range from during pregame warmups, looking at him and where he was accurate from and what his distance was, I thought 51 was about the max. I asked him after the game what he thought his range was, and he said 53, maybe 55. And I think he would have had to be super amped up there. So yeah, I mean, that was definitely, I think, why the Chiefs didn't consider a long field goal at that point. You have to kick the field goal, but I think it was also, yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of Andy Reid saying, hey, if the Bengals are going to get a field goal, I'm going to make them go 60 yards rather than maybe having to go 25.
Mm-hmm.
That's still going to be an easier job.
What backup? And I mean, when I say backup, I mean non-starter. Okay. So I don't need like super deep backup. Maybe you think Marcus Kemp was the biggest backup in this game, but what backup do you think came and rose to the level of a play that you were impressed with and maybe had the biggest impact? Who was that?
Does Sky Moore count?
Oh yeah, that's a backup.
I mean, I'm going with Sky. I think I have to go with Sky Moore. I mean, I would probably narrow it down. I mean, two biggest plays. I mean, Josh Williams had a huge one too. I'd consider him in that category. But Sky Moore, I mean, you lose your first two guys who are going to be your punt returners. You send Sky Moore out there who had all those problems. He had two great punt returns. One, obviously gets called back by the hole that really didn't impact his return. But then that 29-yarder, I mean, that put them in the game-winning position. I mean, without that punt return, and you think about what that kid has gone through this year, and to come out in the two biggest moments of the season for him, and to have those plays, that 29-yard punt return at the end. I mean, to me, there's three plays that won the game for the Chiefs, and that was one of them. I mean, that Mahomes' scramble, of course, Butker's kick. Without those three plays, Chiefs don't win. And Sky Moore absolutely came through at a moment when you did. I mean, there was no. I know I was in the press box, and all I was thinking of was Brett Mayer, and the Cowboys, and missing those extra points in a row. And all I was thinking of is, for good grief, Sky, just bless your heart, please just catch the football. I don't want to see you muff this thing. Please catch the football. And you know what? He was thinking the same thing. I mean, he was just like, I got to go out there and just, no matter what I do, I got to catch this football. And I think actually that probably made the return even easier because I think once he caught the ball, he's like, this is easy.
I kind of now it all depends if they win the Super Bowl or not, right? Because if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl last year, to me the talk is going to be about 13 seconds. But because they didn't win the Super Bowl or didn't even go to the Super Bowl, that 13-second game becomes less of a talking point to me. It's more of just real local Chiefs stuff, not nationwide. You know what I mean? Yep. If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, I think people will remember that punt return similarly to Daniel Sorensen's tackle on the fake punt. It was such a big momentum shifting play from a guy who really got it from the fans. I mean, let's be real. Daniel Sorensen was appreciated much more by his coaches than the fan base. And I think if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, that punt return by Sky Moore will be talked about a lot in Chiefs history.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm completely agree, and I'm with you on the 13 seconds too. I mean, you don't see Grim Reaper T-shirts around, and that's because the Chiefs didn't win the Super Bowl. I mean, to me, I think that punt return went a long way towards just redeeming Sky Moore's rookie season as it is. I think people will still remember it a lot more for that return than for the 3 muffs. But they win the Super Bowl. I don't think anybody ever remembers that Sky Moore muffed 3 punts during the season. They are always going to remember that 29-yard punt return. And I mean, he could go into a Hall of Fame Chiefs career. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's going to be an absolute moment for that kid. And the same way with a lot of good players. I mean, right now, I mean, you would have said that, hey, Chris Jones not making a sack at the key time and never having a postseason sack, maybe last year's AFC Championship game would be bigger on his legacy. Not now. Not if the Chiefs won a Super Bowl. When the Chiefs won a Super Bowl, and it's like Chris Jones was 2-time, Super Bowl champion. How many postseason sacks he had doesn't matter. He was huge at the right times.
Speaking of Chris Jones, did Spags do anything different up front? Did he change things up? I hope it's that the Chiefs pass rush has improved since that week 10 game against the Bengals. I think it has, but I want to say that the bigger impact was no Williams, no Collins, no Kappa, or no Karras. Was it Karras or Kappa? I don't remember. One of the two.
Kappa was out, yeah.
Well, Kappa. I mean, losing 3 starters, that's a big deal and probably had more impact on it. But did they do anything differently to get that much pressure on Burrow?
They did. I mean, one thing they didn't do the first time around against the Bengals was that they moved Chris Jones around a lot. First time around, they really pretty much left him on the inside, saying, that's the weaker part of the Cincinnati line. Let's go ahead and tack inside. And this time around, I mean, they moved him around. I mean, for the sole purpose, it seemed like, to try to get him around some of the double teams. I mean, that was something that the Bengals wanted to do. I mean, they wanted to make sure they had 2 guys on Chris Jones at all times. And when they put him in some positions where the Bengals weren't expecting him and hadn't seen him in the first game, yeah, I mean, that surprised them. I mean, they weren't ready for it. So you saw him, get a few one-on-ones, and anytime he had a one-on-one, I mean, he just absolutely crushed it. I mean, he was still winning some of the double teams, but anytime they were able to get him, and particularly when they lined him up on a tackle or got him to the outside, and that's something the Chiefs usually do on third downs, but they really didn't do it against the Bengals the first time at all. That seemed to confuse the Bengals. They weren't prepared for it. So that helped, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, you saw, Frank Clark's going up against backup tackle. That helps. I mean, he had some huge wins. All those guys, had some huge wins against some backup linemen. So I think that helped. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely Steve Spagnuolo had a game plan, and half that game plan got blown up in the first drive. But the part with the defensive line and trying to isolate Chris absolutely worked to a T.
All righty, let's move to the offensive side. We're talking with Matt Derrick. He is our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Check him out, ChiefsDigest.com. Matt, why can't our offensive line gain a yard? Like, why is that? You got all-pro Creed Humphrey, all-pro Joe Thuney. Everyone tells me that Smith is an absolute mauler. Orlando Brown is the size of a Volkswagen. And Andrew Wiley is just a guy. And they can't get a 1 yard. They can't get 1 damn yard. Why is that?
I can't really explain it either. I don't get it. I mean, you're right. You mentioned all those reasons why they should be able to just absolutely plow forward for a yard anytime that they want to. But I mean, this is multiple offensive lines that Andy Reid's had in Kansas City. They're all this way. And I mean, some of it certainly, I mean, they have developed, Trey and Creed into more, I don't want to say finesse players, but they've developed them more into what the Chiefs do as far as, getting downfield and being able to do those things than maybe they did in college. I can't really say they've lost an edge. I can't say that because you still see them just plow guys over. I don't know why they can't do it. I mean, it doesn't seem to be a play calling thing either. I mean, the only thing I can possibly even begin to lay a finger on is just that, I mean, teams seem to be prepared and ready for the Chiefs to just go straight forward. And And honestly, I mean, it's, usually when they do something a little bit trickier that things work. And because I think the teams, for the most part, are like, hey, if the Chiefs go outside or the Chiefs decide to throw the ball on a 4th and 1, there's nothing they can do. But they feel like maybe they can stop the Chiefs if they try to sneak, because it's pretty obvious. And that's one obviously thing that hurts the Chiefs, is that unless a tight end is under center, they know the Chiefs aren't sneaking, so they don't have to worry about that. But I don't know. It is perplexing why the Chiefs just in 1 yard can't seem to get it.
It's very frustrating, Matt. I'm not going to lie to you. Every time I see on 2nd down and 7, the Chiefs and whoever it is, when they get the first down, I do a little mini fist pump. I'm like, yes, don't have to face third
No
and
third
one.
and one.
Like that's crazy to me with this team. Like it really is. It's stupid. It is. And I am so frustrated by all of that. I really, really am. How hampered do you think Mahomes was?
I think he was pretty hampered. He really didn't get outside the pocket and move side to side much, unless it was, a purposely designed moving pocket. I mean, he definitely didn't want to move laterally, or couldn't move laterally, wasn't comfortable doing that. So, and you didn't see any of the spin moves or the, kind of swirl back moves that he does that get away from rushers. Anything that required him to pivot on that ankle, anything that required him to plant really hard on the run on that right ankle, just wasn't working. The one thing that he felt comfortable doing was running straight forward, and you saw him do that. I mean, he was stepping up in the pocket when he scrambled. That's kind of where he went, and he left everything. I mean, I think he had every ounce of juice, energy he had left was on that scramble in the end, trying to get enough yardage to get into the field goal range, because I think he knew that was the last play that he was going to run. Maybe he had one more throw in him, but that was it. He was definitely, I mean, he wasn't himself, but I think that the Chiefs, one, they game planned around that pretty well. Two, I think Mahomes played within himself, and I don't know necessarily that I can't say that it was the blessing in disguise or anything, but I think the injury did force Mahomes to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. It did force him to go through his progressions more, rather than trying to buy time and look deep and push the football. And that's what you had to do against the Bengals. The Bengals were going to give you the short passes. They were going to give you things over the middle. They wanted to take away the deep ball, and certainly the Chiefs had a couple of big plays deep, but didn't take as many shots and certainly not as many looks downfield as Mahomes would normally do, I think, in a game like this. And I think that played to their advantage, because they were able to move the ball in short little chunks.
When it comes to the injuries, what have you heard on guys who got hurt and guys who might be able to come back?
Yeah, it certainly seems like that the one to watch the most is going to be Juju. He had the knee during the season that would pop up, and that's consistent with him. I mean, the knee is, I think, for the rest of his career, can always be one of those things that's bulky and going to give him problems. It flared up again this week, and he was limping pretty bad even after the game. So to me, they tried to tape him up. They tried to get him so that he could go into the game back in late. He went in for a couple of plays, came back out, clearly wasn't comfortable. That's the one I think you would probably watch the most. McCole, probably same kind of ballpark they've been the last 3 or 4 weeks with him. It's going to be wait and see. 2 weeks might be enough to give him enough rest, make him comfortable. Kadarius Toney, probably same ballpark. I would say right now I'd put him maybe in the questionable category. Juju, I might almost say doubtful category, just based on the way he seemed and looked after the game. Doesn't seem to be any concern with Willie Gay. He told me after the game, yeah, he's ready to play. He's going to go. L'Jarius Sneed, though, I mean, that's the one that's really out of your control. I mean, the concussion protocol, he could clear that quickly. It could take some time, but 2 weeks is good to know. I mean, that's good to have for the Chiefs to get him back.
And then Watson was sick. I think that's an underrated aspect here. Is if let's say you've got at wide receiver for the Super Bowl coming up, you've got what about Toney? Toney, an ankle, I thought it'd be a hamstring, so I don't even know what that is, but it looks like you'll have MVS, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, and then you're hoping from maybe one of the other three in Toney, Juju, and Hardman.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a possibility that you could have 0 of those guys. I don't think that'll be the case. I think you would love to get 1. 2 is gravy for the Chiefs. I mean, I think that if they could get 2 of those 3 guys for the Super Bowl, that'd be fantastic. Juju's pretty important, though. I mean, that's the guy I think you could definitely use to have, just because he's been such a part of things late. You've won games without McColl. You've won games without Kadarius. I don't know if you want to play a whole game without Juju in the Super Bowl, though.
Yeah, I don't want to play a game with any of them injured, to be honest with you. But no, I'm with you on that one. All right, Matt, 2 for the road. Last 2 questions I've got for you. Was that the loudest Arrowhead has been in a while?
I think loudest consistent. I mean, I think there were certainly been some moments in the past I could point to and say I think that was the loudest single moment. But I thought during the game, I mean, that was just the loudest, most consistent noise, especially when the Bengals had the football. There were a couple of quiet moments in the second half where I think things got a little bit nervous and everything. But as far as just from beginning to end, yeah, I think I would say that's been the loudest that I've heard the play since at least Marty Ball days.
Do you think the Chiefs should be the favorite in the Super Bowl?
I think they probably should be, and I think they probably will be. I got to think that the early line at this point is still a lot of betting on not knowing how healthy Mahomes will be and seeing all of the injuries and seeing how well the Eagles ran through their playoff run. I think the Eagles also had a lot easier playoff run than the Chiefs had, so they were pretty fortunate. So I don't know if those scores really tell you anything. But I think as soon as the injury picture starts to clear up, it wouldn't surprise. I mean, we saw the same thing with the Bengals. Once it looked like Mahomes was going to play, that line swung hard back towards the Chiefs. I think it'll probably be the same way in this game. Once the people realize the Chiefs are healthier than they think, the line's probably going to swing back towards them.
The Chiefs are 1.5-point dogs right now, Matt.
Yeah, and they were the same kind of thing with the Bengals. Yeah. So I would not be surprised if at kickoff if the Chiefs weren't like a 1 or a 1.5-point favorite.
You can get plus value on the Chiefs money line, plus 100. If you think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl, you can get plus value. That's incredible.
I'd jump on it right now.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump on it. Hey, Matt Derrick told me to jump on it, Fulton.
I will say, you may tout that as much as you want. I'm not holding Matt responsible for if you lose money on this.
Fulton, do you remember when I told you last week, I said the Chiefs are plus value, hop on this puppy?
Yes, and then I didn't, and I didn't get to make money off that.
Yep.
And the best advice I gave anybody last week, and I wish I'd said it I don't know, I think I said it on the show last Tuesday, but I said it Wednesday morning. I said, if you're going to bet the Chiefs, bet them right now, because once Mahomes takes the field for practice on Wednesday afternoon, you're not getting these odds anymore.
Sold. I'm sold. Matt, you're the best. We appreciate it. We will talk to you during Super Bowl week, my friend. Have a great rest of this week.
Sounds great. Take care, everybody.
It's Matt Derrick. He's the best. Absolutely love Matt. ChiefsDigest.com. Coming up next, we are going to get to a lot more here on Mic'd Up. Yes, Jake Lamont along with Fulton Caster with you on this Tuesday. We got a lot to get to. Everyone loves the list. We're Super Bowls that we're going to get to. Also going to talk with Brendan Dworzinski, get his thoughts on little CrossTalk. That'll be coming up at 1:30. Have a lot to get to. Sunflower Showdown, version number 2 tonight. K-State trying to win in the field house. 8.5-point underdogs in this one. Let us know on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Outside of Topeka, 785-272-9429. Big news just coming out. Big 12 schedule
has arrived.
Released. And what makes it unique is that Oklahoma and Texas are on the schedule, and it looks like they're going to be playing at least this year. And the most important aspect of it is, who don't you play in the Big 12? There are no divisions. It's just best record. So forget divisions. K-State will not play West Virginia, BYU, Oklahoma, and Cincinnati. KU doesn't play West Virginia, Houston, TCU, and Baylor. Those are the teams that KU and K-State won't play. Okay? Both KU and K-State open up at home against the newbies.
Yeah, each team with a newbie coming to town to kick off Big 12 play. That's really fun. That is incredibly fun.
K-State opens up at home at Big 12 play. It's only happened like 3 times. I think it's actually now 8. But they've been in the league since 1996. Been a while. But K-State, they go like this. Open up at home against Central Florida. Then they take on the bye week. Then they take on Oklahoma State on the road on a Thursday No, beg your pardon. It's a Friday. Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, there are some odd days.
I absolutely hate that.
There's some really odd days for the scheduling here for a couple of teams.
I can't stand that. Absolutely can't stand that.
KU gets a weird way to start the year. KU, for those of you that care, is beginning their football season on a Thursday. They will take on Missouri State on a Thursday.
Good. It's not on Friday.
No, I'll take that.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
No, I don't mind that. That's fine. Thursday.
That's weird.
So whatever. That's not weird. That's not weird.
When was the last time a Big 12 team played on a Thursday?
I don't care. I'm used to Thursdays. Every year, Washburn plays on 2 Thursdays.
Well, yes,
that
I
ain't
know.
a big deal.
We're used to that.
That ain't a big deal. Thursday, not a big
Either
deal.
way.
Friday sucks. I hate that.
Yeah, no,
That's
I agree.
Awful.
Fridays for high school football.
Yeah, but they go home Central Florida on a Friday at
Oklahoma State.
In Stillwater against Oklahoma State. Back-to-back games, and they take on Texas Tech on the road. So back-to-back Stillwater and Lubbock. Then they're home back-to-back games. Home against TCU, home against Houston, on the road in Texas, home against Baylor, on the road against KU, and then home against Iowa State. So
close to being perfect. So close.
So they got 5 home games, 4 road games. KU, they are home against BYU, on the road against Texas, home against Central Florida, on the road against Oklahoma State. Then they take on the bye week. Then they're at home against Oklahoma, on the road against Iowa State, home against Texas Tech and K-State. So they also have 5 home games in the Big 12. BYU, UCF, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and then they end on the road at Cincinnati. Boy, KU's road games. Woof.
Yeah, those are
Yikes.
you are traveling to Texas, to Oklahoma State, to Iowa State, and to Cincinnati.
Well, you need to be,
that's something.
They've got the harder schedule than K-State does. The fact that K-State doesn't play Oklahoma is big.
Well, here's what I'll say to that. Here's my counter to that. Chris Kleiman owns Oklahoma.
Yeah, but you don't even have to worry about
I
Oklahoma.
know. Chris Kleiman owns Oklahoma.
Here is Oklahoma's schedule. Did they send them to BYU? Yes, they did. Good.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, they did. Oklahoma.
The Sooners are heading to Provo.
Yeah, Oklahoma going to Provo. That's hysterical. They did Texas all sorts of favors.
Yeah, Texas. I'm Big 12 schedule makers. Come on.
They should have just absolutely gouged Texas, but they didn't.
Disappointing.
They get BYU at home and then don't play Central Florida.
I will say this. Just examining the schedule here. BYU gets their first introduction to because we were talking about how some of this travel is going to get interesting. It's the Cougs who get the long trip this year when they go play at West Virginia.
Well, Central Florida is the long trip.
I mean, yes, but they don't have to deal with that this year. That's still a long trip, not the long trip.
Yeah, Central Florida doesn't play BYU this year, so that's
disappointing.
That's interesting.
UCF and BYU not linking up yet.
But
it is here. It has finally arrived. Many thought this day would never come.
It looks as though everyone will play either Texas or Oklahoma. Like UCF does not play Texas, but they play Oklahoma. Cincinnati plays Oklahoma, but not Texas. Houston plays Texas. Iowa State gets Oklahoma. K-State KU gets both.
Which
Texas
that's
and
annoying.
Oklahoma. K-State does not play Oklahoma, which that's stupid. Big 8 teams should always play each other. Oklahoma obviously gets Texas. Oklahoma State gets Oklahoma. They don't play Texas. TCU gets them both. Texas Tech only gets Texas, and West Virginia gets just Oklahoma. So there are very few teams that get both of them. And
those two teams that get them both are KU and TCU.
KU, TCU, and I have to look if anybody else besides those two.
Iowa State.
Yeah, Iowa State does as well.
Those 3 teams got the double barrel of the Horns and the Sooners.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so KU plays OU and UT.
I will say this. I am delighted that for KU, they get to play 3 of the 4 newcomers, and the one newcomer they don't play, they played last year.
Yeah, it's Houston.
Like, I am delighted that KU gets to play the 3 newcomers that haven't played yet.
So KU plays Oklahoma and Texas. Who are the other 2 that play? Iowa State, TCU.
Iowa State and TCU are the only other 2 that play both. Iowa State, TCU, and KU are the only 3 teams that appears that will get the double barrel of the Horns and the Sooners. Everyone else only has to play one of the 2. Do not have to play.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Both.
And don't tell me that schedule matters, because every KU fan that screams at me, well, we won the Orange Bowl. Yeah, you won the Orange Bowl because you didn't play Texas, Texas Tech, or Oklahoma that year.
No, that matters.
That matters.
When your conference is big enough that there are teams you don't face, it matters who you don't face.
Exactly.
So shout out West Virginia not getting to have to deal with the state of Kansas this year.
Yeah.
West Virginia just does not get to mess with this state this year.
You don't want to go to Provo. I hope people realize that going to Provo is a beast.
That is a time.
Because that is a difficult game. Teams who go to Provo in this situation are Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Iowa State, and OU.
I love that OU is getting,
one.
and more importantly, I love that OU is getting sent to Provo in November. Yeah. Oklahoma just getting sent out there in the middle of November is just delightful.
Teams that go to Central Florida: Baylor, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and Houston. So there you go.
West Virginia has to, for West Virginia, going to UCF is not going to be too bad. You're just going south.
Correct.
It's a long trip, but it's south trip.
Not bad. Yeah, BYU goes to Cincinnati, Texas, Iowa State, and OU. So not terrible road trips for them. I mean,
not bad.
They don't go all the way. They don't play West Virginia on the road, and they don't play Central Florida on the road. So
I do like that KU's senior day this year is K-State. I like that. Yeah, if I don't get KU K-State as the last game of the year, make it someone's senior day. That game does, like, both teams I think are, unless KU takes a wicked backslide, the game will now be competitive.
There is no true rivalry date, which is dumb.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's stupid.
I agree.
KU K-State play each other on the 18th. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State play each other on the 4th. Texas Tech and Baylor play in October.
Like, rivalry weekend used to be a thing.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Like, we would set it up. This is the weekend rivalries are played. I don't know why we don't adhere to that.
Yeah, that's dumb.
But again, if I'm not going to get KU K-State as the last game of the year, which is when I think rivalry should be played, I want one of them to be doing it for their senior day. Give it a little extra juice. Just give it some extra juice on top of it just being a rivalry game. And for KU, it's the last game of the booth for the year as the Cats come to town. They take on the Wildcats, and then they take on the Bearcats.
K-State's schedule when it comes to home and away, like their away schedule is Missouri, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Texas, and KU. That's not daunting. I mean, it really isn't.
No, not really.
But for KU, that's a tough stretch there on the road. Texas, Oklahoma State, Iowa State. They played Nevada on the road. Interesting. Yeah, so that is the schedule. First of all,
it's finally arrived.
I just K-State tweeted out their like social media schedule release. They win.
Yeah, didn't they? Isn't it this year a nice little old school like home theater video thing?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to double check that they, KU. I'm a little disappointed. Did nothing. They just tweeted out our schedule. We have 7 home games at the booth. Here's to get season tickets. Here's a graphic.
Here's
Hawks. Got to do better than that. Every single team should have a special video package for schedule releases. It should be mandated. You got to make one.
Mm-hmm.
That's why K-State wins. That's why K-State wins. I'll give them that credit. I can't lie. I am so excited for September 23rd when BYU comes to Lawrence. That's going to be that atmosphere is going to be fun. That is BYU's first taste of Big 12 action, and they come to the team that stunned everybody last year. And instead of going into if KU hadn't done what they did, it'd be like, oh man, BYU's first game is getting like a half empty stadium with a couple hundred people, because I will not give that number 1,000. Like, oh, that sucks. Now it's like, no, they got to play a kind of an upstart KU team that can sell out crowds now. I'm just delighted.
You ready for this? When will K-State play Oklahoma again?
That's a great question, Jake.
When will they play them again?
If they don't leave the conference early next season.
No, they're gone. They're not.
That's why you have to put the caveat on it, because nothing is finalized. If they don't leave the conference next year, then they'll play next year. If Oklahoma leaves early and this is the last year with them in it, I have zero idea. I have no idea when those two teams would play ever again. Like, I don't know. Depends.
Because KU plays Oklahoma and Texas, so we don't have to worry about
that. I wish they didn't have to play them both. I will openly say that.
Wow.
I would like to have gotten to miss one of them. Getting both barrels sucks. But at least one of them comes to Lawrence. It would have been worse if you're getting double barreled and have to do both roads.
Man, the Big 12 I can't stand the Big 12. Texas will leave the state of Texas twice to face Alabama and Iowa State. Otherwise, they will not leave the state of Texas. That's embarrassing, Big 12. I'm mad at you, Big 12. So mad at you.
That's fair. No, that's fair.
It's stupid. Trying to think of some other little nuggets and notes.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's any other big scheduling notes we missed as this all gets dumped on us here.
I don't think that.
Those might just be the biggest highlights of the schedule release.
I do think if you play BYU and you get them at home is a huge deal.
Yeah, if you don't have to go to Provo, that's helpful.
Yeah. Coming up next, everyone loves the list. Worst Super Bowls. We'll get to that next here on Mic'd Up. Everyone loves a list on this Tuesday. Chiefs win the Super Bowl, which is awesome. It's fantastic. Third time in 4 years. Worst Super Bowls. Now, if you say, Fulton, Bears, Patriots, I'm going to smack you. Because you were not alive. You didn't even watch it.
No, I was going to put out that caveat. I've put myself my own caveat.
Okay,
I have
good.
taken this only from Super Bowls when I started caring, which is when I was 10 years old in 06.
Okay.
If it was before 06, it isn't eligible to be on my list because
Good.
I wasn't paying attention.
Good.
No. These had to be games I watched and decided, man, that wasn't fun.
Yeah.
No, I have integrity.
Good
I
for
have
you.
integrity.
It's saved a big HR issue.
Yeah, no,
it saved a lot because I would have smacked you.
Yeah, that's very fair. No. Which I will say also just mean I got probably a lot more recent stuff on this list.
Mhm.
That's not recency biased. That's just what I remember because of my age. Number 4 for me, Super Bowl 50 between Broncos and Panthers. That had a great storyline of Peyton's final championship, great defense. The game wasn't fun.
Okay.
24-10 Broncos. Panthers never really showed anything.
Game that I remember about that is Cam Newton made a business decision.
Yeah.
Number 4 for me, Bucks Raiders. It was a blowout. It wasn't that great of a game. The Raiders stunk. John Gruden got the win as the Bucks coach. Yeah, Bucks Raiders.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention enough for that one, but it seems like it was probably a stinker.
It wasn't good.
Number 3 for me, Super Bowl 41, Colts Bears. That had a fun moment when Devin Hester returned the kickoff. That's all I remember from that. Nothing else.
Prince was awesome at halftime.
Prince, that's a fair point. That was the Prince Super Bowl. Does not make the game better.
Yeah.
The game itself stunk.
Number 3 for me, Seahawks versus Broncos. It was 43-8. It wasn't even a game.
That was awful.
That was a terrible Super Bowl.
No, that was horrible, and that's why it's my number 2 is the 43-8 Seahawks. That game started with Peyton Manning getting a snap off his helmet and it flinging back bajillion yards. I can't remember. That might have been a Super Bowl. I turned off because it was a blowout. It wasn't fun.
Number 2 for me, Patriots Rams. It was 13-3.
That game sucked.
Boy Wonder had a terrible game. He even admits it. That's Sean McVay. So Patriots Rams number 2.
No, that game sucks, and it's my number 1. Patriots Rams sucked. It is the worst Super Bowl I've ever watched, and it was 3.5 hours of my life I will never get back. Like I honestly wished I did not watch that game. It stunk.
The worst Super Bowl. It was Chiefs Bucks.
Well, okay. Yeah, okay.
The Chiefs,
I get your point.
During the moment, I felt like the Chiefs had a chance. Every non-Chiefs fan was like, "Yo, man, you guys got destroyed," and that was tough.
That's fair.
Chiefs Bucks worst Super Bowl. Yeah, no question. Coming up next, Brandon Rosinski will slide in here, and we'll get a lot of takes with a lot going on. A little Sunflower Showdown. That's right. KU K-State play basketball this evening at Allen Fieldhouse. 8 o'clock with the tip-off. 7 o'clock pregame coverage right here on your home for K-State Athletics. It's on ESPN Plus. A top 10 matchup is on ESPN Plus. I get that's where we're going. I understand it. I'm still going to watch it. It's still a bummer that a top 10 matchup cannot be seen across the entire country. And I get it. I get it. The schedule is set. It's not like football where this game would be, Saturday night prime time, or it would be big nude Saturday because it'd be top two teams. I get that. It's not. They thought K-State was going to be,
cheeks.
Awful. They thought they were going to be, burnt pizza. It just so happens they aren't. And this game is on ESPN Plus, and it's the two Kansas schools. It is what it is. Hit us up on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Let us know your thoughts on that one. It's on ESPN Plus. Just get out ahead of it. Brendan Dworzynski joining us here on Mic'd Up, 580 Sports Talks. Brendan Dworzynski. I get why it's on ESPN Plus. I mean, K-State was supposed to be bad this year.
Yep.
Not a surprise. It sucks, though, because it's a top 10 matchup. And it should be a good game. Real quick on KU K-State.
I think KU wins tonight. I'm a little surprised by how much the lines moved at Vegas. It opened at KU -6.5. It's 8.5.
Yeah.
It smells so fishy to me.
It's weird, but I get it. I think I saw someone say this earlier today. The Allen Fieldhouse effect has been overvalued in game line spreads this year and has been undervalued on the live line, which, as someone who has made quite a bit of profit betting KU on live lines at home this year, I would agree with that statement. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I think it's going to be a competitive game. I do think KU is going to end up winning, though. I know you can say, well, KU's going to make adjustments from last time. Okay, well, so is Kansas State.
Yeah.
It's not like Kansas State played its best game of the year in Manhattan back on January 17th. But I think home court advantage, KU's riding the momentum from the game against Kentucky. I think they needed that. I think they've really needed a couple of guys to get back in a groove, Harris and McCullough specifically. And I don't expect three starters to foul out of the game.
Yeah.
Which would help.
You said that's fishy. It smells fishy. What kind of fish?
I'm ignoring you.
Tilapia.
Tilapia?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Okay. So you're going tilapia as well?
Sure, we'll go with that.
No question. Catfish.
To be fair,
It's catfish.
Shut up. I'm ignoring you.
yesterday,
Stop
wow,
it.
hostile in here. Damn.
Hey,
What I missed in the first hour and a half.
He couldn't. You answered the question. I appreciate that. I just want to know what kind of fish.
No,
Sometimes
I
the fishy line, though, it makes sense. Like, for example, last night, why in the world would Texas Tech, winless in conference play, be favored over Iowa State? How could that possibly make sense? Sometimes they just know, folks.
No, they know
Because they have time machines.
they have a DeLorean made by Doc Emmett Brown. They know. I am now fully convinced that there is time travel. And the people who operate the sports books
Are the ones that have it.
found the flux capacitor, and they know. There's no other way. And also, I want to know what you could have gotten plus value on money line for Texas Tech at halftime yesterday. It had to be plus 1,000.
Probably.
It was probably very large.
Close to it, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Have a nice chunk of change.
Was it only Dan who jumped on that? Either of you have?
I stayed away from Texas Tech, Iowa State.
Yeah. I was busy last night. I didn't put anything down.
I try not to bet on college basketball because college basketball is
Coward.
so wild.
Coward.
I did bet on TCU and Iowa State on Saturday,
Yeah.
and they were the two Big 12 teams to lose. Bunch of bums. But yes. Speaking of the Big 12, real quick, initial thoughts on the Big 12 football schedule release.
I'm Kansas State fans. I'm happy for you. I'm happy, especially those of you who love to spend this time of year going on Twitter complaining and whining that you start the Big 12 season on the road. Congratulations. You don't have to do that this year. You have been freed from whining for everyone to hear about how you start Big 12 play on the road.
In their defense,
Shout out to D. Scott Fritchen.
in their defense, starting on the road every year but 7 since 1996 is a bit wild. I will.
Yeah, it's weird.
Both things can be true.
It's weird, but it's not a complainable offense.
Yeah, you get more home games later in the schedule. I'd rather have that.
Yeah.
To each their own. I mean, some people would rather.
I don't disagree that it's a thing to point out that it's strange that it was happening. I think it's beyond odd to complain about it.
I'm mostly being facetious. I think it's a bummer for both KU and K-State that they don't play West Virginia because I don't think they're going to be very good. Because I think Neil Brown is a sitting duck.
Yeah.
So that is a bummer that neither play there. K-State, though, I mean, they get UCF at home. That's nice. Nice to not have to go to Orlando. That's a big plus. In fact, K-State's travel this year is not bad at all. They don't have to play BYU. They don't play West Virginia. They get UCF at home. They don't have to go to Cincinnati. K-State actually ended up with a really nice. What's their furthest trip? Houston?
I think.
That's not bad at all. So that's a real nice schedule for K-State. And for KU, I think it's solid. It's a bummer you're one of 3 schools that have to play both OU and Texas, but, well, just go beat Texas, and then it feels fine. KU also gets UCF at home. That's nice. Playing at Nippert, that's pretty cool. Open Big 12 play at home against BYU. That's cool.
Yeah, you don't go to Provo.
Yeah, that's nice.
Baylor right now will tell you how difficult it is to win in Provo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's really nice. The one thing that's dumb and sucks, and I know K-State does get a rivalry game on the final weekend of the season. Play KU K-State in week 14 or 13, whatever it is.
Oklahoma and Oklahoma State play like mid-November.
That's dumb, and it has always
or
been
not mid-November, mid-October, damn near.
Like, it's rivalry week around college football. We got Ohio State, Michigan. We've got the Iron Bowl. We've got USC, UCLA. Well, no, it's USC Notre Dame that week. We've got all these big games. Kansas, Cincinnati. Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. Great. OU, TCU. Legendary rivalry. What is that? Yes. Who could forget the eras and eras of great games between Baylor and West Virginia? No, play Baylor, TCU that week.
Yeah. That ain't hard.
Bedlam. KU, K-State. Iowa State versus, competency. You could do all sorts of rivalries that week. But no.
You're
dumb. Preaching to the choir over here.
We're with you. Also, can I throw one more thing out here real quick?
K-State not playing Oklahoma. I hate that.
OU's ducking them. OU's scared.
I hate that.
Boomer scaredier. They don't want that smoke. They know they'll get beat.
No, you're Boomer scaredier. You're not gonna get upset and irate because
No. I'm not, because you were trying to shoehorn in your joke and forcibly make it happen. Brendan, that was just off rip.
Doomer sooner. There we go. Doomer sooner. I just needed a moment.
You were
He was letting me work. That's a good teacher. He's letting you work through the issue.
You were forcing in a catfish joke. That was the problem.
I do want to add, I know that most teams in the league are playing an FCS team. I know. Like, KU's playing Missouri State. K-State's playing SEMO. SEMO was a little better this year, by the way.
Yeah.
Baylor is playing Long Island University. They won like 2 games at the FCS level last year. They play Utah. That's a big game. Texas State sucks. They're awful. They're going to have a brand new head coach. And they're playing Long Island University. Give me a break. They've only been a D1 program for like 3 years. Give me a break.
I see.
Play a real school.
They're playing Utah.
Yeah.
I mean, Utah's a better team than anybody that KU and K-State are playing.
Yeah, but KU is also playing Illinois. K-State's playing Missouri. Those are Power 5 schools. Both bowl game
I mean,
schools.
they're playing directional Missouri and Missouri State. So, I mean, I really am not going to fault them.
Long Island University's football team was literally Division II like 3 years ago.
I will say this.
I can't fault them.
And I know
that.
this is different because they just joined the conference. BYU's playing a couple of bums.
They really only have. No, they only have.
Sam Houston's not really a bum.
They're FBS now too. They moved up. They're Conference USA
That's
now.
a fair point, but still, Sam Houston. Now, Southern Utah is
Go Thunderbirds.
That's a bummy school.
Is anyone playing a really good non-con schedule? I don't think so.
Because we've noted what Baylor has because they have Utah, but the other two teams are eh.
I will say West Virginia does. I mean, you play Penn State, you play Pitt. That's legit. I don't care your third game. Don't care.
Houston is playing 2 G5. Oh no, they're just playing 3 G5 schools. But that makes sense because they had to fix their scheduling stuff.
Like West Virginia, that's legit. Pitt and Penn State plus the Big 12 schedule. That's stupid hard.
Yeah, that's hard.
That's stupid hard.
Yeah.
Tech's playing Wyoming, Oregon, and Tarleton.
Yeah,
I just see the logo and I'm trying to guess off the logo.
Tarleton.
What's the West Virginia other team? I don't.
That's Duquesne.
That's Duquesne.
That's the Dukes of Duquesne.
Yeah, that's a tough schedule. Yeah, Duquesne legit.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude. What do you know about?
What do you know about Duquesne football?
What do you know about the Dukes?
They play hard. They energy level.
Shout out Wyoming playing 2 Big 12 schools in non-con play. The Cowboys playing Texas Tech and Texas.
Do you know what conference Duquesne is in?
Good one.
No.
You should. Well, no, you went to a D2 school.
I went to a D2 school.
The Northeast Conference.
Yeah.
Oh,
not the Northeast 10. That's the one.
Yeah, the NE10 is what I'm familiar with.
Let's move past the Big 12 schedule release.
Duquesne went 4-7 last year, by the way.
Not good.
And to take on the Chiefs versus the Bengals. Biggest play in your mind now after looking through it. We gave our top 4 plays on Monday, and which was fun about this game. And this is the reason why I hate, and we're going to talk a little bit more officials as well, but the reason why I hate the official aspect of it, did you spill your water, Fulton?
I did not.
Okay.
I tapped it, but I didn't spill it.
Is
tap that.
4, I had 4 plays, Fulton had 4 plays. The 4 biggest plays of the game, and neither one of us overlapped.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So what were your 4? Or not just 4, give me your top 2.
My top 2? I really do think Chris Jones blowing up that 2nd and goal, or it might have even been 1st and goal at the 5-yard line on the final.
2nd and goal.
It was 2nd and goal.
Because they threw a fade pattern.
That's right. There was the fade on first down. Yeah, 2nd down, that quick out to, it was Higgins was the receiver.
Yeah.
Chris Jones blowing that up, that's huge. Cincinnati gets a touchdown there. That second half feels a lot different. So that's the number 1 play. The other one, and this seems obvious because it was at the end of the game, it was the first third down stop that the Chiefs got on the Bengals last drive. Because the first third down of that drive, remember Hayden Hurst got wide open on that corner route and all the young defensive backs clearly did something wrong because no one should be that open in that play. That to me was, okay, oh no, bunch of young dudes in the secondary. They rebounded immediately on the next third down. That was every third down from that point was going to be the biggest play of the game. The Chiefs being able to stop the Bengals, get off the field at that point, that was the biggest play, I think, in the 4th quarter. And I know that's an obvious.
So the third down would have been the Chris Jones sack then.
Was that the sack?
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah.
Well, okay,
that was their drive.
Yeah. So yeah, Chris Jones making the play off the edge.
Making the play off the edge.
Poor Hakeem Adeniji.
Poor Hakeem Adeniji.
Not a great matchup.
Is that poor Hakeem Adeniji or poor offensive line? Or not? I don't want to say that. Great stuff by Spagnuolo because they set that up. If you heard Chris Jones say afterwards, look, the way you get one-on-one matchups is you have to show blitzing the other side so they push everyone to the other side. And if you notice, Chris Jones and Carlos Dunlap had a little, discussion, and Chris Jones said, no, I'm staying on the outside because he knew that Hurst was not going to stay in the route. It's 3rd and 8. He said Hurst was going to release. Therefore, he had one-on-one coverage with the tackle. And
they had
there's no that's not on Akeem Adeniji. I mean, that's like
no, I just think that's a bad matchup for
yeah.
him. And
I
mean,
think
that's a bad matchup one-on-one for most players because they hadn't done it all day either. They had not put Jones on the edge all day.
I think that's credit to Spagnuolo.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
It's more a good play by the Chiefs than a bad play by Adeniji and the Bengals. But you put him in a bad situation. That's what you try to do as a defensive line, right? You're trying to put the offensive line in a bad situation.
Chiefs roster. Who's more important? Snead, Juju, Tony, Willie Gay? What guy who's hurt needs to come back?
Snead. Snead's the most important. At this point, among the wide receiver core, I think that's probably your least important in terms of actual talent anywhere on the roster.
The only thing I'm going to say here is,
except running back,
I look at the wide receiver. I think Justin Watson being like healthy, like not sick, could help out.
Yeah, vertical threat.
But I look at this as the Eagles secondary is good. Yeah. If you don't have some guys who can get open, that's a problem because that pass rush is good. If your wide receivers are Sky Moore, MVS, Justin Watson, and because Hartman not going to play. Like I don't think he's going to play. Matt Derrick says Juju not great because that knee is flared up. Tony all depends on that ankle. And you'd like to have either Tony or Hartman to do the jet sweep type of stuff because as we've seen, Sky Moore is not the jet sweep guy right now.
He doesn't have the burst that you need on those plays.
And and in fairness to that point, it was very dumb to try to make him that. Like, go watch him at Western Michigan. You know how many he had like 5 rushes in his whole career. It was very dumb.
So that's why I look at, I think Juju or Tony is low-key big because I think they might just say, hey, we're going to play man free. And we think Slay and we think, Bradbury are good enough to stand with these guys.
And I agree with that, but here's the counterpoint. You know what beats perfect coverage? Perfect throws.
Yeah.
You know what the Chiefs have?
The guy who can make perfect throws.
And to Brendan's point on Snead, I'm in lockstep with Brendan on that one. It's one thing to ask.
Oh no, I agree.
It's one thing to ask Watson and McDuffie to have to stand up against Higgins and Chase. It's a different ball game to ask them to do that against Devontae Smith and AJ Brown with the other options the Eagles have to make the rest of your life difficult.
I'm not just. I agree with you. Snead is the most important, but when you said that, I think wide receivers is the least of your worries. I do think that is a little bit, because I think the Eagles roster, we all agree, is better than the Chiefs outside of one position.
Yeah.
But that one position, I think Mahomes.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a significant advantage.
It's a huge advantage.
I just think if you're looking at those other guys who are going to be out, you need to be able to have as much firepower in your secondary as possible because the Eagles have too many weapons. I think your defensive front seven, so throw Willie Gay into that mix, far more important than your wide receiver in this game. This game is going to be won by offensive and defensive lines. And I know that's very like old school meathead, but that's absolutely true. The Eagles have more sacks this year than any other team in NFL history, including regular season and playoffs.
I thought they were 5 away from the record.
Maybe including the playoff. Regular season, I believe they had the all-time mark for team sacks.
It might be including playoffs. They're 5,
that might be.
They're 5 back of the start to finish of the season sack record,
and they have the best offensive line in the NFL.
Yeah,
like that's where the game is going to be won by the Chiefs' offensive line and the Chiefs' defensive line more than anything else because you are already factoring in Patrick Mahomes as the best quarterback in the NFL. That's already part of the equation.
Is it out of the realm to say that the biggest difference between, like, if you were to rank them, like Chiefs O-line versus Eagles O-line, is the quarterback the biggest gap, or would it be secondary?
Biggest gap in talent?
Yeah, from one team to the other, specific to the position.
I don't
count
neither. It's wide receiver. Oh, you were going to say you don't count wide receiver?
No, I was going to say I don't count running back.
Oh, okay. It's wide receiver.
If the Chiefs are healthy, if Juju and Tony are
it's
there,
wide receiver.
It's wide receiver.
If they're healthy, it's still wide receiver. Devonta Smith would be a number 1 receiver on 25 teams in the NFL.
And he's really good.
And A.J. Brown's a superstar.
He's very underrated.
Yeah, very underrated.
Mm.
Goddard is an awesome tight end.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest one. I would agree with secondary second, though, because the Eagles' offensive line is really, 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 really good. It's the best in the league. The Chiefs are not far behind. The tackles are iffy, but the interior is
Then why
so
can't they
good.
run the ball?
That's partially scheme. It's also probably partially who their running backs are.
Like, that's what.
Like, Jet McKinnon's not at his best when he's trying to run behind your interior lineman.
It's so
Isaiah
frustrating.
Pacheco, a lot of promise. Isaiah Pacheco also, it's a weird phenomenon. His eyelids close as soon as he touches the football, and that's why he just runs into his offensive lineman all the time. It's very interesting. It's like it's a reflex. You get the ball in his hands, there's like a sensor in his palms, and his eyelids just shut, so he doesn't know where he's going.
I also look at the O-line, though. There's not a lot of holes sometimes on 3rd and 1.
Well,
Like,
you need some help setting the edge. That would help.
That's what's so frustrating. God, I never want to see 3rd and 1 ever again in my life. I get so nervous on 2nd and 6, and they throw a pass, and someone's trying to get a first down. I'm like, please don't get to 3rd and 1. Please don't get to 3rd.
Yeah,
and
I thought that the entire game against Cincinnati, the whole game.
I can't do that. Brendan, we appreciate the time, my friend. Have a good time at 580 Sports Talk.
We'll talk to you at 3.
Coming up, we'll get to Sunflower Showdown. Of Mic'd Up. Thank you so much for joining us. Jake and Fulton Caster. We've got lots to get to in this 2 o'clock hour. We'll get to the Kansas City Chiefs. We will also have a little odds makers, and the Sunflower Showdown is tonight. 8 o'clock tip off. 7 o'clock pregame coverage right here on your home for K-State Hoops.
I'm going to need you to bump both those hours up by 1. It's a 7 o'clock tip.
It's a 7 o'clock tip?
That's 7 o'clock tip, Jake.
Are you sure?
I am staring at the ESPN app that's telling me it's a 7 o'clock tip.
Can I not read?
So unless that is wrong, which it could be, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm.
Did I look at the wrong day? I looked at the wrong day.
Jake, dude, my guy.
Yeah, it was at 7 o'clock tip off. K-State at KU.
So that means 6 o'clock pregame.
Yes, I got my My numbers mixed up when it comes to 7 o'clock.
I promise you guys, he doesn't make this many mistakes off the air.
That will be a fun game. And
it's going to be great.
Here is my thought process. Let me know on the Big O Tires text line. In the last 10 games at Allen Fieldhouse between KU and Kansas State, they've all been won by KU.
Hawks.
They are 10-0 in the last 10 games. 8 of those 10 have been blowouts. And
Hawks.
I mean, not even close.
Yeah, like doors got blown off.
102,
really fun for me.
102-83.
That was great.
74-51.
Fun time.
81-60.
Gem of a game.
64-49.
Bit low scoring, but fun.
Then you had 73-72. That was the Barry Brown missed jumper at the end. Then you had 90-88. That was the non-travel call.
I saw nothing.
Then you had 77-59, 68-57, 86-60, 83-62. So when I say that outside of 2 games over the last 10 years, it has not been close.
No, it's been thrashing.
It hasn't. And the 2 times that they have been close, 73-72, 90-88, those were the 2 best teams that K-State had. They I mean, you had the team that won the league, and then the other team went to the Elite 8. You had Barry Brown, you had, Dean Wade, you had Kamau Stokes, you had, DJ Johnson. You had good teams. They had talent. They went 25-9, 25-12. Now, this year's team for Kansas State, the biggest thing is they have a new coach. Every one of those games was essentially Bruce Weber, except for the first 2 of those. It was Bruce Weber. Bruce Weber's team, and we know K-State and Jerome Tang, they are different. So that is a huge, huge variable in this game, is that this isn't a Bruce Weber coach team. This is a Jerome Tang coach team. The second biggest variable is this is the most talented team that has come to Allen Fieldhouse since the 73-72 game, since the 90-88 game. This is no question the most talented team since then. Keontae Johnson and Marquise Noel essentially are a lot comparable to the Barry Brown and Dean Wade talent level of your 2 big guys. So that, to me, is why I think this game is going to be close and is not going to be a blowout. The best teams that K-State had, they made it close. This team, to me, is the similar level of talent because of Keontae Johnson, because of Marquise Noel. But Tang brings a different vibe to this, Sunflower Showdown in Allen Fieldhouse. Tang did mention, and this was from Kellis Robinette, and I always enjoy talking with Kellis. We'll talk to Kellis tomorrow. He thinks that the atmosphere won't be as a big of a deal. He says this, quote, "We've had some great venues in this league. It's no longer just one place that has got a great home court advantage. The fact that we got to play in front of one of the all-time should help. We are used to a big crowd. I think that's going to help us." He says, quote, "I think that's going to help with our communication. As a staff, we've had to adjust on how we communicate with the guys because of noise that our crowd makes. That's going to help us go in there." And I agree with that. K-State has played a couple of road games already this year. They have beaten Baylor on the road. They have beaten Texas on the road. They have lost to TCU on the road. They have lost to Iowa State on the road. Now, what road team shows up? So far, 3 of those road teams have been good. Texas, Baylor, and Iowa State.
Yeah.
One road team was bad. Right now, it looks as if the road game against TCU is the outlier because they have played very well. I mean, right now, Kansas State is ranked ahead of KU. They're ranked 7th. KU's ranked 8th. They've only lost 3 games. The Butler game on the road, TCU on the road, and Iowa State on the road. So, to me, this is more about K-State than it is KU. I look at it, this is about Kansas State because KU at home, now the last time they played at home, they got absolutely trucked by TCU.
Yeah. That's one thing these 2 teams have in common this year. They both have gotten blitzed by TCU.
Right. By the way, how long is Miles out? Do we know?
I have not seen anything. I'll do some more digging to see if I can see anything. I've not seen an update. I'd imagine we've gotten it by now.
If Miles plays the entire game against Mississippi State,
they win.
They win the game. Yeah, that sucks.
TCU lost Mississippi State because they're 2 of their 3 best players got hurt.
But for KU, and when it seems like the chips are down against KU, and you were just deathly afraid of the rebounding advantage for Kentucky over KU. I mean,
given the game prior to Kentucky, where KU had some rebounding issues, and the fact that Oscar Tshiebwe is, without a doubt, no questions, undebatable, the best rebounder in college basketball.
There's a debate. Zach Edey is in there. Okay, to say no debate, that's too much. I can go Edey as well.
That's fair. I will always give an extra bonus to the guy that does not have the advantage of being as tall as a sequoia.
Well,
that's not. I'm not blaming Zach Edey for that. He doesn't get to choose how tall he is, but Tshiebwe, I think, as rebounding as a skill, is better at it than Edey. Either way,
they're in the conversation, but no debate. That's too far.
Yeah. Either way,
but KU had their back against the wall and showed you like that's your on second thought. Might as well get that out of the way right now because you were deathly afraid.
I was terrified.
And they had 4 offensive rebounds and didn't score a single second chance point.
I'll admit that, and it shows what happens when you're led. Yeah, and being led by a Hall of Famer is what helps you. And no, I agree. The one of the there's a couple big storylines in this game tonight. One is just going to be what both teams' adjustments are. Because like we noted, K-State did not play a perfect game against KU. It still went to overtime for a 1-point game in a game which K-State had a pretty big lead at several moments when KU came back into it. That matters. Late, K-State went to just some pure Keontae Johnson post-ups, and they didn't work. Like, the one that worked was when Keontae Johnson spun out of a post-up to that oop. Everything before that, Keontae Johnson went cold when it was just him and Jalen Wilson one-on-one. Jalen Wilson dropped 38 in that game. Like,
he was really good.
Both these teams have things to change, and I'm going to be intrigued to see what each team does. Because I'm with you. I think this game is close because this isn't – coaching matters. It matters so much. And Jerome Tang has got these guys playing in a right way. Now, to Tang's comment on the home environment, it helps that they play in an all-out arena now. The Octagon Dune, I will give all you K-State all the credit. That place has gotten loud again. That matters. Allen Fieldhouse, as I've said many times, just has this weird way of causing teams' brains to shut off. And I don't think it's just crowd noise.
Do you think having only 2 players from last year's team
who's been in this environment
helps because they don't know any different?
It comes down to, do you think ignorance is bliss? Like, Marquise Noel and Ish Massoud have been inside this building and know just what it is like. Because, like I said, it goes beyond just the place gets loud. There is just an aura around the arena and the history of it that I think contributes even more than just noise to why teams just stop remembering how to play basketball. I don't know if that's going to happen to K-State, and I am intrigued.
Yeah.
If it'll happen, because, majority of this team They don't know any better.
No, they don't.
It's the classic, they don't know they're not supposed to win in this building.
I'm taking the Jayhawks to win because, as we found out, Bill Self has not lost back-to-back
ever
home games.
He doesn't lose back-to-back games in Allen Fieldhouse.
So if I had to pick a winner, I would simply pick the Kansas Jayhawks. I say K-State as a whole, it's more about them, but individually, it is about two guys. And it is the two guys that won you the game in Rupp. And that's McCullough and Harris, because those two guys, you're not going to get anything from the bench. The KU bench is awful. Okay.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
The bench is struggling. You're not going to have
struggling. Like I struggle sleeping at night right now. Okay.
Fair.
No, that bench.
Yeah,
is
no,
awful.
you get nothing from it. And the fact that you also are down Zubieja he's going to be out for multiple weeks.
Yes.
That hurts because you're going to need a lot more Ernest Uday, who you haven't been using as much. No, it comes down to McCullough and Harris because
yes, they scored 19. They got 19 points.
And that's the big thing. Against K-State, they both were not good. Harris fouls out. That is crucial.
Well, he didn't foul out until super, but McCullough fouled out in regular, and he had 0 points.
McCullough had his worst game as a Jayhawk against Kansas State.
I mean, you could probably
how
argue
he
does his worst college basketball game ever.
I don't know enough about his tech to go fully that far, but I'm with you. Arguably, probably his worst as a college basketball player.
Do you think he didn't score?
I don't know. I don't know I don't know deep enough into his tech career. I would be surprised if he'd been skunked before.
Right?
But no, I'm with you. McCullough and Harrison, what they do tonight is so important because you know what you're going to get out of Jalen Wilson. You know what's going to happen over there. And on the K-State side of it, you know what you're going to get out of Noel and Keontae Johnson. It's the other guys. What do they do? Because I think that will decide who wins this game. For KU, what do you get out of KJ Adams? Because he had a good game against K-State, but fouled out. What does KJ Adams do? Can Kevin McCullough give you anything? Not even just offensively. Can he just be engaged? Because it was beyond he didn't score in that first one. He was playing poor defensively. He was passing and making bad turnovers. Like, he did not play. He was not playing smart. What does he do? Can Dwan Harris be somewhat of a scoring threat with some level of confidence and ability to take his shots? And can he just not make stupid mistakes? Because he made some stupid mistakes against K-State. What do those three guys do for KU? And if you're K-State, who's the third man this go around? It was Desi Sills last time who had a podium game. Is it Desi Sills again? Is it Naquan Tomlin? Does Naquan Tomlin have a great game? David Gassan is working his way back into this. What does he do in this game?
He helps them out a lot on the defense.
He gives them a real big man. And that is not trying to slight Naquan Tomlin at all. I love Naquan Tomlin's game. I really do.
I did not realize
just too slight.
I didn't realize you'd only been playing basketball for 4.5 years.
Yeah, he's only played basketball for 4.5 years. Like, I love Naquan Tomlin's game. I think there's something there. The fact he's so slender at his size, though, makes him not really a true big man. Whereas David Gassan's got a little heft behind him. He can bang with the big boys down low.
Let me ask you this. Give me the point totals the last 3 games for Desi Sills. How many did he score against Tech in the win?
5.
He scored 4.
Ooh, it's really close.
How many points did Sills score in the 4-point loss to Iowa State?
6?
0.
Oh.
How many points did he score in the blowout win against Florida?
No one had a great offensive game that day. 7?
1. He has scored 5 points in the 3 games combined since dropping 24 on KU.
But we talked about it when we previewed that game 2 weeks ago. You need a third man in addition to Noel and Johnson to step up.
He was the third man. He
was the guy, but like
Marquise Noel did not play well.
No, KU, Dwan Harris made his life difficult with his length, and Bill Self just knows how to scheme that. So that is true for K-State, but it is for K-State. Who's that guy this time? Because if a third guy steps up to join Noel and Johnson trying to lead this team for K-State, they got a real shot to do something no team's ever done against Bill Self that's beat him back-to-back times in Allen. And for K-State to sweep KU in a season series for the first time in 20 years. Like
20.
Is it 30 or 40? Oh, wait.
40.
83. Yeah, it is 40 now. I'm bad at math. I've always admitted that.
20
It's
years
40
ago.
now.
That'd have been 2003.
Listen, I forget that 83 is 40 years ago now. Good Lord, time flies. Either way, for KU and for K-State, it's who steps up outside of your stars. I think that encapsulates the difference here. Whoever gets more out of the non-stars wins this game. If KU gets something big, and it doesn't have to be points, it's just overall effort and impact. If KU gets more out of McCullough and Harris, then I think it's KU. If K-State gets it out of Desi Sills, David Gasson, Naquan Tomlin, it's K-State. You know Noel and Johnson for K-State are going to get something done.
Mhm.
For KU, you know Jalen Wilson, KJ Adams, and really Grady Dick are going to get you something done. Those guys are locked and going to do something for you. And I think they balance each other out pretty well on the grand scheme of the scales. So to me, it comes down to who are those other guys? And that is completely unpredictable.
I'll take KU to win simply because KU doesn't lose back-to-back games.
That's why
at
I'm on the
Allen
Hawks.
Fieldhouse. I would take K-State to cover the 8.5.
I would too. That is too big.
That seems that seems a lot. Now, if K-State wins, they'll be 7-2. All right.
Yeah.
If KU loses,
What, 5-4?
5-4. I don't want to
Yeah.
say that it's a must-win for KU. I'm not gonna say that.
Yeah, they could go on a tear and,
Yes.
and figure something out.
But
It's not easy.
the thing that is interesting about this is KU still has to play Texas twice, and they go to Iowa State.
Yeah. Speaking of that, they got Iowa State on Saturday.
Like they not just Iowa State, it's at
Yeah,
Iowa State.
They're at the Clones with an 11 a.m. tip on Saturday.
So that's why it's not a must win, but
They also, let's remember as well, just to add into this, they still got to go to Fort Worth.
I
haven't gone to Fort Worth yet.
I look at this as this is a house money game for K-State.
Yeah, K-State's not expected to win this game.
No.
You've already beaten the goal when you play the elites in your conference is to split.
Yeah.
Your goal when you play the TCUs, the Texases, the Baylors, they've gone back up to where I think you can put them in there.
Oh yeah.
Iowa State's
They're ranked
even
11th.
Yeah, that's fair. The Iowa State's even your goal there is you need to split.
Yeah.
And preferably just at least win at home. K-State's done that. If they lose tonight in Allen, they're still sitting pretty.
Yeah.
They're still sitting fine because they held home court at Bramlage. So truly, K-State, house money. If they lose, whatever. You split the season series. You're still near the top of the conference. You're fine.
Yeah, there'll be a game back of Texas, and you get Texas at home. If K-State wins this game and they're sitting 7-2, I think that pretty much locks up Jerome Tang is your Big 12 coach of the year, because I think K-State will take care of business and they'll probably end up winning 13 games or so, go 13-5 or 13 something of that nature, maybe 13-4.
Yeah,
they'll lose 2 the rest of the way
because basically all their tough opponents now have to come to Bramlage.
Yeah, so I look at that as a huge bonus for K-State. And Bill Self mentioned this, and it's right. He's 1,000% right.
100% correct.
The fact that these two teams are playing within 2 weeks of each other
is stupid.
It's a bummer. And the reason why I say that is it doesn't give any real time for, this is a huge game and it's 2 weeks after. You should never play your rival within 2 weeks of each other. You should, because KU can play Texas Tech, Baylor, Texas, Oklahoma State, TCU.
Give a lot more time for the two teams to find some different things and all that, because within 2 weeks of each other, adjustments can be made, but these are still relatively the exact same teams.
But not even so much that. I just think you got to have some time in between.
Yeah, that's also plus too. Is there's a lot of juice for that first one because it was first Sunflower Center, Jerome Tang.
It almost feels like
going to Manhattan.
Yeah.
The Cats playing so well. A little bit of that juice, you can't retain it for 2 weeks. A lot of energy was burned by the fan bases in that game too. This should be a near the end of February game. this rematch.
Yeah.
Give about a month between the contests.
Mhm.
The teams get to find out more about themselves as you go between the two matchups, and it gives the fan bases a chance to recharge a little bit.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
So, but Allen will be rocking tonight.
And that's why the Big 12 scheduling gods,
They're stupid sometimes.
do
God,
way better. You need to do way better, no question. Yeah.
Thinking KU by like 6 feels right. That feels right.
From the Big O Tires text line, Hawks by 12.
That's too big.
Yeah, that seems.
And I'm a KU guy, and I'm like, K-State's good, like good. And when a good K-State team comes to town, KU wins, but it is tight.
It's close. Yeah, the numbers back it up.
And I think it's gonna. I think this is tight for 40 minutes. I think maybe there's a small moment where either team kind of opens up a semi-big run, but I feel for most of the 40, this is going to be your blood pressure is through the roof if you are investing in either of these two teams.
And speaking of blood pressure, it's on ESPN Plus, so get everybody upset there. Coming up next, we got a little odds makers here on Mic'd Up. Odds maker question.
Oh boy.
What are the odds KU wins the Big 12 if they win tonight? What are the odds KU wins the Big 12 if they lose tonight?
Oh boy. That's a good little two-part question. So if they win tonight, I think let's see, they would be 6-3, second place in the conference. That's 6-3. Yeah, that's what they would be. They still got to go to Iowa State, still got to go to TCU, still got to play Texas twice. I think if they win tonight, they have a 55% chance of winning the conference. If they lose tonight, I think it goes to about 45. They're helped by one of those teams directly above them. They play twice in Texas.
So you say if they win,
I give them about a 75% chance to win the conference. 55% chance to win the conference.
70.
Yeah, no, that's way too high.
And if they lose,
I get a 45. It's 10% swing.
okay.
Because even if they lose, one of those teams they would then have essentially, like Baylor kind of counts, but they'd be right there with them. They would have 4 teams above them. 3 of them they play at least once more. They still play one more against TCU. They one more against Iowa State. They'll play Texas twice. That helps you control your own destiny a little bit. You're in the hole by 2 games to K-State without playing K-State anymore. That's not helpful at all. But there's still enough of your own destiny to control. I don't know if K-State can keep up their home court dominance the rest of the way, because K-State still has to play a bunch of the tough teams. They just get them at home. But if KU loses, I think it's more likely than not they don't win if they lose tonight.
If KU wins the conference, I will put it at, or KU wins the conference.
If KU wins tonight, you'll put them winning the conference.
I'll put it at 45%, 40%.
Okay.
If they lose tonight, if KU loses tonight, I will give KU a 10% chance of winning the conference. And here's the reason why. You are already at 4 losses. You're going to lose another one. You're not going to run the rack. That's not going to happen. So you're going to end up with 5 losses at minimum. 4 losses will win this league. You will win the league if you go 14-4. If K-State wins and they lose 2 more the rest of the way, because they'll have 8 more games because we've already played 9, they're going to lose 2 more. If you go 14-4, you will win the league. 13-5, I think, is the best you can do to share it. So if KU loses, they'll play 9 games.
Yeah.
They will have to go 7-1 the rest of the way. That's why I'm not going to say it's impossible. Maybe I'll bump that up to 20%.
Yeah.
If they win tonight, it's 45 because they're still only at 3 losses. They're still going to lose one that puts them at 4. That's why I think 13-5 is a share. 14-4 is probably outright, or one other team will win it. But if KU loses this, they got to be almost perfect the rest of the way, and I don't think this team can be because they have 0 production from the bench.
And I think KU has 3 really, really, really tough games left, and they're all on the road. They're at Iowa State, at Texas, at TCU. Now, I will say this, but at Iowa State, after last night's debacle, I've kind of already started selling a lot of Iowa State stock.
I won't, because that
they
game
blew 23-point lead to Texas Tech.
That's true. It was on the road too, but
in a half-empty supermarket arena.
It's okay.
Like,
all right.
Sure, you're in Lubbock, but no one's there to make it a problem.
They still have to go to. And there's no,
but no, the fact that they have to play Texas twice, and one of those is being on the road, and they still have to go at TCU, a TCU team that blew their doors off in Lawrence. No, I'm with you that I think even after tonight, no matter what happens, KU probably has another loss sitting on the schedule.
Oh, I guarantee it.
If
I
KU found a way,
I
like if after this game, if KU found a way to run the rack, I'd be stunned. It would be one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. With how tough this league is and the game travel and schedule.
I mean, you still.
No, I'm with you, 100%.
Have to go to 4 tough places.
Yeah,
Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, and no,
I'm with you.
That's right.
I'm with you.
There's no. I'll put it this way: to win the league outright, if KU loses tonight, they have 0 chance. 0.
It would take not only them going on a miraculous run, they would need some help up top. Because, like I said, K-State would have a 2-game lead on them for outright.
And Texas.
But again, they play Texas. That's their part of the calculus. KU plays Texas twice still. That 2-game lead, they can erase by themselves. It's not likely to happen, and it's not easy to happen, but KU can erase a 2-game deficit to Texas by themselves. because
Well,
they played the Longhorns twice.
I look at
They can't. They would have to ask 2 other members of the league to beat K-State. Like that when you start putting things in the hands of someone else, that makes the math a lot harder.
I don't even look at looking at other people. Like
Yeah.
I don't. Well, I wouldn't. I don't care the math there. I just look simply at KU. If you lose this, you are already at 4 losses.
Yes,
You're going to end
correct.
up with 1 loss the rest of the way.
More than likely.
And that's why I just that's a tough road. That's why it's a big game for KU.
It is. And I just as much as difficult as I would think, I point this out to you're needing K-State to lose a couple of games without you having any influence on those games. I think that's completely possible. This conference is a murderer's row.
Yes.
Like this conference is just every single night is pure hell, is what this conference is. So I don't know. I'm still with you, but we'll see going forward. With the Big 12 schedule out, we've had some time to digest it. What are the odds K-State wins the Big 12 again in this next season? 2023 is, I think, officially what you call it.
I mean, I'll probably put it at 30%.
Don't have to play Oklahoma.
That helps.
But again, like I said, Kleiman owns Oklahoma, so you probably would rather play Oklahoma than like Texas.
What a world we live in.
If you're, this is a complete sidebar to what this segment is supposed to be about. If you're K-State, wouldn't you much rather trade Texas for getting to play Oklahoma this year?
Oh, of course.
Like, given just all history, are you actually a little bummed you don't get to play Oklahoma?
Well, because I think this is the last time that K-State will play Oklahoma, maybe for 20 years.
I mean, yes. No.
Like, that sucks.
That does suck.
Yeah, same thing like Baylor, Oklahoma won't play each other. Oklahoma State, Texas won't play each other. Like, it sucks.
End of an era.
It's a bummer. It really is.
But that's what I've been thinking about. Is like, if you're K-State, are you just sad you don't get to play Oklahoma from the standpoint of you can beat them? You've proven it heavily.
Yeah.
You can beat those guys. Yeah. I'm with you. I'd put about like 35-ish. I think they're one of those 3 favorites.
Yeah.
Like, I think K-State's up there. I never think they never live up to the hype, but theoretically on paper, Texas is up there. Like, on paper, they could start Arch Manning if he outplays Quinn Ewers, which can make their quarterback situation better. They have good talent. I never feel like they'll do anything right, but on paper.
Yeah. Coming up next, the Kansas City Chiefs roster 1 through 53. How big was the depth? We'll get to that next.
We expect
Number 2, I mean, you look at this, man. If K-State wins, Tang, first ever game at Allen Fieldhouse is 1-0. K-State sweeps KU for the first time in the regular season since 83. And KU would lose back-to-back games at Allen Fieldhouse under Bill Self for the first time. That's what's at stake for the team in purple. If the team in purple loses, they lost. Like they should go out there and just wing it if you're Kansas State. That's incredible that Bill Self has not lost back-to-back home games at Allen Field. That's incredible.
He has as many conference titles as he does home losses.
That's incredible. I look at the Chiefs and what they have done with their roster as maybe one of the most impressive roster constructions in a long time. In a long time. They got everybody 1 through almost 56, 57, because a couple got like Blake Bell was inactive. Justin Watson was inactive. 2 guys going into this year that at least game number 1, now Blake Bell got hurt, that were factors for this team. They did not play.
Yeah.
Having guys like Darius Harris and Marcus Kemp and Colin Saunders and Derrick Noddy and I know MVS is considered a starter,
but he's not an important role. He never filled like a consistent role. He was asked to turn into wide receiver 1. And he had not even just not been that this season, never been that in his career.
Yeah.
Has he been the guy on some of these routes and these concepts and has to do all these different things? He had to step up his game immensely to help the Chiefs win this game.
If you look at the year as a whole for the Kansas City Chiefs, in receiving yards, Kelsey had 1,300. Juju had 933. Kelsey, honestly, was better in the regular season than I think many people thought. I don't think they thought he would end up with, 12 touchdowns, through 17 games. Okay. So this is including the up until now. But Marquez Valdes-Scantling, if you include this last game, still hasn't reached 700 yards. How many touchdowns does Marquez Valdes-Scantling have right now?
Like for this season?
For this year?
4.
Two in the playoffs, 2 in the regular season. He's caught as many touchdowns. So 4, that was more in the regular season. You included the 2. But think about that. Like in the regular season, he caught 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's it. 2. He caught 1 against Wow, he really likes catching touchdowns against Jacksonville.
He really does.
And the other one against Houston. And he's caught 2 touchdowns in back-to-back games. Fun fact, he caught 1 pass against Jacksonville. It was a touchdown. So if you had the MVS anytime touchdown, good for you.
Good job.
But he had 116 yards.
Yeah.
In this game. Then he had 687 yards in the regular season. Like, he was even better. And that's what makes that's why we discuss who wide receiver number 4 is. Who's the backup offensive lineman? Who's going to be the backup, who's going to be the third and fourth string corner. That's why when they decided to trade Charvarius Ward, or not trade, let him walk.
Yeah, let him go.
And we're like, wow, what are they going to do at corner? Okay, Rashad Fenton. They traded Rashad Fenton. Wow, they must really think that the Kansas City Chiefs, these young secondary guys, are that good. That is why it is important in camp and in weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4 how your backups are doing. Because there's a time when you're going to need your backups. Nobody on God's green earth thought that the Kansas City Chiefs would be starting 5 rookies in the secondary, essentially.
Yeah.
Because at the end of that game, you had McDuffie at one corner, Watson at another corner. You had Josh Williams at another corner. You had 3 rookies, and then you had Brian Cook as your safety. Sorry, 4 in the secondary. You had 4 rookies in the secondary. That's the reason why the draft is so important in the 4th and 5th and 6th round, where you can get production. Is it a huge deal if you don't draft them well? No, because most don't. I think it's more of a in rounds 5, 6, and 7. If you don't connect, it's not a huge deal.
Yeah, if you miss those, it's not the end of the world.
But if you hit on them, it's almost like you get blackjack.
You do.
You get 21 right off the rip, and you get that bonus.
It is, and I will say this as well. Hitting in the late rounds can make up for occasionally missing in the early ones. That's the other part that is also important. You don't want to miss with your first, your seconds, even your thirds or your fourths. You want to hit with those. You do. But if you miss on those, you can make up for it by hitting with a 5th, a 6th, or a 7th, because if you can replicate the talent level you missed with those earlier ones, and they're cheaper, like, it helps. But this is why, when we do training camp every year, and we talk about some of the training camp battles, and we talk about the depth and some of that, there's a level to it that sometimes you wonder, man, why are we even, why do we care so much about who's going to be the third or the fourth corner? What does it matter to an extent, what, the 50th and 51st guy on the roster is going to be? It's natural to have that thought and just completely think about, oh, they got the stars up front, we're fine. What separates the good teams from the great teams, the teams that can, maybe make a run to those teams that truly get to this spot, it's depth. It's tenure, because in a 17-game season, and then add in a couple playoff games, you're going to have injuries. Attrition just happens in this game. And depth is important. I mean, Philadelphia's been tested the same way. In addition to them being top end on talent, they've had some good depth to help them out and perform well.
And I think your depth, how do they handle the big time games? And the Chiefs are a perfect example of that. The depth finally, they just had too many injuries in the offensive line in the Super Bowl. The Bengals, honestly, the biggest difference between week 10 and the AFC title game was their offensive line.
Yeah, their offensive line finally just could not hold up because there's too many injuries.
The depth was not there at the offensive line against a good team. And if the Bengals somehow beat the Chiefs in that game,
they would get listen.
The
Eagles would have killed them
if Williams and
now if Williams and Kappa had gotten healthy, they would have held up. But if they would have those injuries, no. And that's so important. Every team has a line that too many injuries exist, and once you get to that point, you suffer serious problems. Every team's line is different. The further you can push that line down, and the more injuries it takes to get to that line, the better off you're going to be. I really thought we might have approached it in this AFC Championship game with the amount of bodies and important players that went down. But they survived because the lesser-known guys did not let the moment be too big, and they stepped up. Like, the entire game essentially was rookie secondary, at least to the corner position. Because Snead went down on, like, the third play. And the rest of the rest of it was just, all right, Williams, Watson, McDuffie, go have fun. We believe in you to go make a play and stand up for this team and get them a win. And they did. And that just cannot be lost.
Snead played in, because now I'm interested in how many games he did actually play in. He played in,
Like, it felt early. It was on the first defensive drive.
he played in four
Unless I was
snaps.
wrong. Yeah,
Four.
4 snaps.
That's it. 4. From the Big O Tires text line, what was your predictions for MVS, Juju, and McColl? I remember you talked about before the season started. Our over-under, I remember this very vividly, for MVS and Juju was 800 yards.
Yep.
Because we thought they both would be about the same. We thought Kelsey would be, I think ours was 1,100.
Yeah.
And he went for 1,300. MVS and Juju, I think, were 800. Juju went 933.
Yeah, Juju went over.
And then MVS
fell short.
was just around 700. So they kind of evened out, to be honest with you. McColl, I think his was around 800.
It was around 7 to 8, something like that.
But with Hardman, he didn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
So there's really, I mean, what did McColl ended up this year with 300 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns. 3 of those came in one game against the 49ers.
They did.
Coming up next, we will finish things off with the mic drop. It is time for the mic drop here on Mic'd Up. Fulton, what do you have?
Normally, this is when I would rant about KU for a hot second, but I just come across my timeline that a Bengals fan started a change.org petition for a redo of the Bengals-Chiefs game because he hates the refs that much. Don't be that fan. Don't be that big of a loser. That is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Truly hilarious. Don't ever be that guy. And then, as always, Hawks.
Man, put your energy towards something else, man.
Something useful, please.
Man, go take a walk. Or as Joe Klatt said, take a lap, buddy. Take a lap. The Kansas City Chiefs, out of their draft class this year, they had 6 starters. That's incredible. Coming up, we got 580 Sports Talk, and then we'll have some K-State hoops.